Hello, Adab, Namaste. I'm Geeta Singh. On behalf of the DC South Asian Arts Council Inc., a not for profit 501c3 organization, welcome to the first DC South Asian Literary Festival, which is going to be from May 9th to May 15th, 2021. First, let us take a moment to express our support and concern for the tough times everyone is going through due to the COVID pandemic. Our prayers and thoughts are with you. Thank you to all the hosts, moderators, guest speakers for your time and participation. We look forward to the conversations and panel discussions. And thank you to our team who have worked long hours to put together the festival. Please go to our website www.dcsaaci.org and check out the schedule and register for the festival. And happy Mother's Day to all the mothers today. For today's conversation on Being Sheela, a biography written by Aditi Rao, the moderator is Sandra Liotta, a certified financial planner. She is the Senior Resident Director and Senior Vice President of Wealth Management at Merrill Lynch, a Bank of America corporation. Sandy, a 30-year veteran of Merrill Lynch in Towson's, also serves on the board of Baltimore Center Stage and Innovative Learning, Inc. So over to you, Sandy. Welcome.
Thank you, Geeta. Adab, namaste. As Geeta said, I'm Sandy Liotta from Baltimore, Maryland, and I am thrilled to serve as moderator tonight for a Q&A with Sheela Murthy and Aditi Rao for the DC South Asian Literary Festival. In case you're wondering, I'm not South Asian. However, as president of the board of Baltimore Center Stage, the State Theater of Maryland, I'm a passionate supporter of all the arts. And as a young girl, my family and I lived 5 years in Asia, in Cambodia, Vietnam, and the Philippines, and we traveled extensively to India and other Asian countries, so I feel a sense of belonging. Now, to my left on the screen is Sheela Murthy, a lawyer, entrepreneur, philanthropist, and speaker, perhaps best known as founder and president of the Owings Mills, Maryland-based Murthy Law Firm, which has been ranked as one of the world's leading U.S. immigration law firms. Her new biography, Being Sheela, The Life Journey of an Immigration Lawyer, published by HarperCollins, explores the life of a woman who has made it her purpose to strive to make the world a better place. With insightful detours into her rather eventful growing up years, the book follows her journey from India to the United States, through law school at Harvard, to celebrating 25 years at the helm of a highly successful law firm, transforming countless lives for the better in the process. Also with us tonight, from India, where it's actually day, is the author Aditi Rao. After a degree in theater from Smith College in Massachusetts, Aditi worked as an assistant director on the award-winning Hindi cult film Satya, and then as a writer-director on the travel channel of India.com. Being Sheela is Aditi's third book published by HarperCollins. Her short stories have appeared in anthologies and in English textbooks across India. Welcome. So good to see you again, Sheela, and to meet you, Aditi. And welcome to all our audience members. I will be monitoring the chat for questions to ask on your behalf. Please don't hold back. I'd like to start with you, Aditi. You have a degree in theater from Smith College and a background in writing for film and TV. Do you bring your skills as a playwright and a screenwriter to your work as an author?
First of all, Sandy, thank you so much for doing this, and thanks for having me here. It's such a pleasure. I mean, what a treat first thing in the morning. And to answer your question, I believe so. Yes, I think, and maybe this is not just me. I think everything that a person ever does in their life kind of adds up to bring you to this moment. And so perhaps, and I'm told that my writing tends to be pretty visual, and I think that has so much to do with the film aspect, because sometimes when I'm writing, and even if it's only for a book, I can actually hear music in the background, and I know the moments that somebody looks up, and so the whole thing is playing out in front of my eyes, very much like a screenplay or a or a play for the theater. So yes, Sandy, I really do think that it all adds up.
Well, it makes for a beautiful book, just a gorgeous. Your Being Sheela is fabulous.
Thank you.
Now, why a biography and why Sheela Murthy?
Just because it interested me, and also because I'm very fond of Sheila and her husband Vasant. And there was so much to explore with her when they approached me to write this biography. There was something in the way they asked me to do it. I think they had gone through several biographers and it had not kind of worked out with other people. And I remember sitting with Vasant and listening to his reasons for wanting to tell Sheila's story. And also because I'd heard so much about her, I felt that this was a story that should be told. And at that moment when he asked me if I would try my hand at it, I remember thinking that this one's going to work. I'm going to make it work. So I think as I was writing it, I never regretted doing it because the stories that Sheila shared with me, and not just Sheila, I actually ended up interacting with various other people in order to get sort of an overall view of Sheila as a human being, starting from her childhood up till the present day. They all had really interesting stories to tell, and it grabbed me. So the writing, I mean, the book pretty much wrote itself after that.
Well, it's so true. Sheila, your life story would make a fantastic movie. The format of weaving in cases from your professional work as a top-notch immigration lawyer with stories from growing up with your family in India is so effective. This book represents such a powerful collaboration between you and Aditi as the author. But how much of the book is framed by you, the marvelous subject, and how much is the author, the observer?
It's a very interesting concept, right? Because everybody's life is fascinating and interesting and exciting for them. Everybody has wonderful stories in their lives. I think almost every life has magic and beauty and mystery and drama and everything. But I think it's all the author. That's my sense of it. And I think Aditi was really able to bring out the story in a beautiful way to share, to almost make you think you are right there, living it and meeting these people and sort of, her creative and artistic talent. She's clearly gifted and talented. Now, I may be biased like a mother to the child, to my biographer, obviously, but I am convinced that if it were not for her very special storytelling gift and talent, I don't know that this book would be as successful, as well liked, as getting such incredible feedback and so many opportunities to literally share it, at multiple universities, at different venues. I think it's because of the way Aditi has managed to almost bring out this beautiful, the heart, the soul, and all of that. So I think it's her. She may say I definitely, the subject matters. And yes, the subject matters a little bit, but I think the storyteller matters a lot.
May I just cut in and say something here, Sandy?
Of course.
So Sheila's right. Okay. And let me tell you why. And this is not to take credit for, any of the stuff that she's done. Why I'm saying she's right is that Sheila is such a character. She just goes for it. I mean, this is the guts that it takes to get through life. In those days in India, at the time when she applied to Harvard, she did it with such unstinting, thoughtless courage. And when I'm saying thoughtless, I mean it in the best sense, because she doesn't even take a second before she decides that something needs to be done. And she never lets the fears get in the way. She never lets any self-doubt get in the way. She just goes out there and does that. And as a result, when multiple people who've read the book and even reviewed the book, a lot of them have said that they enjoyed a lot of the book, but they found that there was not enough focus on her, challenges and the difficulties she faced. Believe me, Sandy, we asked her and asked her and asked her so many times, what were the challenges? Can you give me the cases that failed? And Sheela did not know what I was talking about. She just did not, because she does not recognize failure. Because every situation, no matter what it is, as soon as it lands up in Sheila's hands, just gets turned around into some good. It makes it past, all the obstacles. And even if she does not win something in the, in the technical sense of the word, I don't think any of her clients would go away thinking, oh, damn it, I didn't get what I needed from this attorney. I think they go away feeling like they really, really benefited. And that's how she makes people feel. I mean, when I interviewed her, her entire legal team, they all had the same thing to say about her. As in, it's just so much, and she's so brimming over with these feelings that they sort of permeate. They kind of brim over and then permeate into anybody who's around her. So yeah, I mean, she does these things, and I think that if another biographer had written the book, it would have been equally interesting, and would have had a very different tone to it, because Sheela is just Sheela, and then somebody else comes in and starts to impose their thoughts and their ideas and the way they tell the story, which is why I said I agree with with Sheela, if you know what I mean.
I want to reach back, and one of the things you said, Aditi, which is so true, that Sheela is fearless, but she also has a very interesting attitude towards try again. Tell us, Sheela, you call it, you learn from every knock. That's just so, I've never met anyone like you that is that positive. It's amazing.
So, did you want Aditi to answer or me?
No, you.
Me. Okay. So I learned a long time ago that there are only three common denominators in all the world's greatest leaders. One of them being the hard work everybody has to do, the vision or the goal. And the third, which is the major distinguishing factor, is every time you get knocked in this life, you have to tell yourself, that was such a great learning opportunity. That was so wonderful. I don't see it now, but I know I'm going to see it that way. And so every time something terrible has happened to me, negative, bad, people may say, boo-hoo, why me? I do that. I'm human. I might feel a little bit like, why did that happen? Bizarre. That's strange. But then I tell myself, this is a wonderful learning opportunity. I'm going to become better because of it. I'm going to become stronger. I'm going to learn from this. And so that's been a very simple philosophy my entire life. Some people think I'm a little bit naive in how I look at the world. But you know what? It's if naivete means constantly being positive, always trying to make lemonade out of lemons, constantly trying to turn the negative into the positive, then heck, I want to be naive. I want to be all of those qualities that I think, because, from the time I was little, my father would always say, God gives you only so much energy. You can use it towards positive or you can use it to negative. There's only a finite amount of cosmic, spiritual, mental, emotional energy. And so, every time my mind would go into a funny negative place, I would say to myself, no. If I go down that path, it's only going to be harmful for me, for my doing well and, processing and proceeding forward in life. So I try really hard never to let the petty stuff get to me. Or bog me down for too long. It gets to me because I'm human, but I try not to let it bog me down. And I've just used it as a learning opportunity. But when Aditi was talking earlier about, how Sheela is fearless, and both of you said that, I thought, that reminds me of the saying, fools rush in where angels fear to tread. Maybe that's the negative of it, but then I'm trying to turn that again into the positive. If I get knocked out, if I get knocked down, great, I've learned another lesson for life. And you keep learning till you make hopefully fewer and fewer as you grow older and older.
Well, it's so fascinating. We have a couple of questions in the chat. And so let me ask that. And I want to come back to a point you made, Sheela, which is wonderful. So this one is for Aditi. The questioner, it's Hunter Haskins, would like to know, what was your favorite part about writing the biography?
I think My favorite part was Sheila's childhood and Vasant's past. Maybe because I'm very partial to history, and also because I think what Sheila is today as a human being and as a professional is all rooted in her past. And I really think that if you want to look at a person and really know them, if you want to get to understand their depths, then you don't look at them, you look around them. As a result of this, I spent a lot of time with her mother and her sisters, and with Vasant's family, getting to know them, and I have known them since childhood. So many things about Sheila became clear to me from the little Sheila and from her sisters and her parents and from the way they have interacted with her or perceived her. And the historian in me just kind of rose to the occasion, and I really found it interesting to know about her and discover her past, and also to write about it. So that was easily my favorite part about the whole writing process and the exploration process.
Oh, it's so you are so right, Aditi. And Sheila, that's some of my favorite as well. So moving when you as a child, I don't know, you were 7 or 8 and you became ill. You became very ill and were quarantined in your room for a long time, right? And you could have crawled under a rock and then said, woe is me. But the young Sheila decides to go out and make something of herself and read and study. And it's, oh my goodness. So it's in your DNA to make lemonade out of lemons.
There is no other way to, I think there's no other way. I think every single human being on this earth has dealt with problems and challenges. The beauty of life is everybody thinks everybody else has an easier and better life. The grass always looks greener on the other side. Anybody watching our three lives will think Sandy's is a walking in the, it's a walk in the park. Her life looks fabulous. She's this big wig with Merrill Lynch. Aditi Rao, this incredibly talented writer, went to Brown, obviously with a silver spoon in her mouth, very smart. They look at me, but people think we fell from heaven. But everybody who's walked the journey knows that nobody has accomplished anything in this world without trials and tribulations and going through ups and downs. And as someone said, when the good is going, the going is good. When it's tough, the tough. You know what I'm talking about. That the people who are tough can sort of roll with the punches, so to speak.
Yes. So we have another question here from, it's actually more of an observation from Chitra Sharma. They say, I feel that how a story is being told makes or breaks the story. Storytelling is as important as eating food with eyes.
Absolutely.
And food plays a big part in the biography. One of my favorite lines, Aditi, is when you write that Sheila was incapable of doing anything by half, including eating samosas. I just think that's
Sandy, I have to tell you that food was also a very major part of the research of this, because here I'm trying to get stories about some case, and I'm trying to understand the legalities of it, because you just can't afford to go wrong. You can't get even the nuance of a law wrong, and I'm looking for loopholes because we're trying to sort cases and stuff like that. And Sheila's trying to feed me more rice and more rotis and more mithais, and it was hilarious. And I did not even notice what I was doing. I mean, I was just shoveling food into my mouth while talking. And at one point, I was like, "Hello, what are you doing to me? I'm going to get really fat now." But it was so fun. And she'd bring me chocolate. I mean, she just knows how to get people. She knows their weak spots. This one likes chocolate, that one likes, whatever, confectionaries, and she will get them. She'll get them through through your stomach, straight to your heart.
Oh, that's sweet of you. Look who's talking. The person who brings the best sweets around from town.
One box, and she's still talking about it, right?
By the way, I would actually suggest that not getting the, to get the book from the foundation, because 100% of the proceeds are going back to doing good, to doing good both in my birth country, India, and my adopted country, the United States. And so every single penny, every dollar, every paisa, every rupee goes 100% right back to doing good in the world and making a difference in the lives of people. So it's 100% tax deductible contribution. It's a 501c3 organization, the Murthy Naik Foundation. And we got the website beingSheela.com, which I know Sandy loved. She was like, oh, beingSheela.com, that's great.
It's easy. Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. Well, that brings up a very good point, Sheela. Was it important to you? How important was it to you that you had an authentic voice writing, someone who could be articulate about Indian culture and the dynamics of growing up as a woman, a young woman, a very determined young woman in India? How important was that to you?
So that was very important because I think some of the people that Aditi had mentioned earlier, they were talking to me, they were discussing it with me. And every time they would say, no, it's your autobiography. You're just talking to us. It doesn't count because we're using your tone, your words, your language. So they were almost transcribing for me. So they didn't think they were authors at all. So, and most of them were people living in the United States. And Vasant kept saying, but there's a part like the soul, there's missing something in this whole thing, Sheela. I know they mean well, they're brilliant, they're nice, they're good people, they want to do right, but something isn't falling into place. And so, initially, as I'd said, I think in one of the I-95 interviews, we had initially thought Aditi would start off just doing, editor of kinds, just being an editor. And she looked at it and she was like, it's going to be easier just to do the whole book and rather than trying to just edit bits and pieces, because how can you edit something when you have to rewrite, the whole thing with a different voice, a different focus, a different bent. And that seemed to make sense, which is why I think it was like this, almost like it was meant to be, because we weren't sure where this was going. It was sort of a work in progress for years and years and years, and it was all over the place. But Aditi just took the bull by the horn, just took it and said, you know what, there's enough substance here, but she wouldn't let go. She grilled me, grilled my mother, grilled my sisters, talked to Vasant's sister because she couldn't get to talk to Vasant, who, as we all know, is such a private person. My husband, Vasant, the long-haired, long-bearded, looks like a sadhu Baba. Thank you. Sandy calls him the Baba. Looks like a real one of those, monks, almost like a Buddhist monk in some ways, or a Hindu monk or whatever, a monk. And she wouldn't talk to her. So Aditi was very clever. She went behind and around and talked to his sister and talked to other people till she was able to piece together the story of the life and how we met. So what I love about the story, besides the fact that if you don't even know me or have nothing to do with me, it's almost exciting just as a fun story, because Aditi is such a wonderful, creative, gifted, sensitive writer. And so you feel you're reading this beautiful novel about something, and then you have to say, no, but it's actually somebody's real life. And isn't that fun? And these lives that are changed, where I've had the privilege and honor of helping people going through the immigration journey, of being able to be their advocate and present their case before the Department of Homeland Security, USCIS, or many times, very often, people come to us after they get denials of their cases or we file appeals. And, they're almost ready many times to pack up and go back. And we say, just let's give this a chance. What do you lose? You're ready to leave. It's a couple $1,000s. Do you want to do it? And they'll be like, sure, I don't want to leave right now. I mean, I've bought my house, my car, my assets, my kids are growing up, they're in school. Sure, I'm going to take a chance, but obviously no one can make promises, because at the end of the day, we don't issue the approvals, the government does. But then we give it a good fight. We do what we can. We argue the legal. I always say, if there's the law in your favor, you argue the law. If the facts are in your favor, you argue the facts. If neither is in your favor, you appeal to the humanitarian and the gut and the instincts. So when people see the passion and they see how determined you are not to let go, like a dog not letting go of the bone, I think sometimes people just say, you know what, let's just improve this, because their dogged determination, they're just not letting go.
Yes.
I think in that sense, Sandy, maybe Sheela is oversimplifying this thing, because when she says that it was just, facts, and, I came in and added this whole dimension, I have to also say, Sheela, that even though, what I first read, the original researched draft, when you all asked me to edit, there were points in every page there was this latent sort of dramatic twist or an interesting anecdote that was just waiting to be told. So it is not as if I know you don't see that, because possibly if you saw these things and you were so aware of it, it would kind of waylay you from your purpose in life, which is to kind of just go out there and, like you say, take the bull by the horns and do what it takes. So you're saying, right? I mean, you either appeal to the humanitarian aspect, or you argue the law or the case or whatever it is. There's so much drama in that which you don't see because you're doing it and you're in the present moment. There's no other Sheela that sticks around to observe yourself or to second guess yourself or to create any doubts, which is, I think, the reason why you are as successful as you are, and you're as widely popular and so well loved, is because I think that people know that when they come to you, you're just going to take over and you're just going to get them what they need without a second thought.
Well, thank you for those kind words. But you know what? As they say, behind every person, there's a fabulous team. I couldn't do it right now, this discussion with all three and Geeta and the whole organization. And similarly with my law firm, I feel so blessed because the kinds of lawyers and paralegals and legal assistants and support staff, they are mission driven. They are so determined. They have vision and purpose. They buy into what we do and why we do it, to change lives, to make people's dreams come true. And they really take it seriously. And so while sometimes I'm out and about, doing my thing, they are working the case. They are determined to fight just as hard. And so I feel like it's a team effort. It's not me. It's everybody working together in the same dance, marching to the same band.
A lot of the stuff that's written from the attorney's point of view, all of them, her legal team, I sent out questionnaires and they wrote back their answers. And some of them all of them just sounded so much like they cared. They were so passionate. They were so creative, even in the way they express themselves and the way they handle situations. I completely agree with what you're saying. You are very, very well supported by a fantastic team of. I remember reading their answers and thinking, oh boy, I would like to meet these people. They sound not just like good attorneys, they sound like really solid human beings. And also the fun aspects, the fun that the team has together. You eat together, you muddle your way through problems together, and what you end up with is not just a team, but a family, an extended family. So.
Yeah.
True, except because of COVID-19, we haven't been able to get the food, the buffets every afternoon.
That's an interesting, Sheela, you're right. You must have a good team, but it starts at the top. And I'm thinking of a story from the book. I don't remember exactly, but there was a buffet, more food. And I think it was somebody who was brand new to the firm and couldn't eat anything because it wasn't kosher or something, right? And you picked up on that and you didn't make a big fuss about it, but the next time there was something for everyone. So that starts at the top, that sensibility, that ethos of caring. I totally agree with you, Aditi. In fact, I loved it in your book when you wrote that the first thing that you get from this woman is her incredible kindness. Yes, she's dynamic and energetic. She is so kind. And I love that. Kindness is a business concept. That's fabulous.
Yeah. It's a very solid foundation, isn't it? Kindness is the best foundation to start your business on. So.
And you really captured it. You just, I have to admire, you also have a reporter's eye, I noticed. You're a storyteller, but you also, because you ask the questions and you get very candid. In fact, we have, Geeta wants to know, she wants to know that you were so candid, Sheela, about the relationship of your mom and dad, that takes such courage. What was the thought process behind that with Aditi?
My philosophy always in life is, it is what it is, right? They didn't have a good marriage. They had problems. It was complicated, like many marriages in the world. There's close to 50% divorce rate even in the United States, and the other 50%, just because they're together doesn't mean that it's all, bed of roses. And I thought it was important because, like you said, when people ask, so what are the challenges you face? I think every child that grows up in a home where the parents are very at odds with each other, or there's a lot of unhappiness and tension, it impacts the children. Of course, it impacts the children, both good and bad. The good is, like you always try to see, you know, make lemonade out of lemons, is makes you tougher, it makes you stronger, it makes you realize, you know, there's a lot of unhappiness in the world. I need to be strong and I need to be tough and all of that. The bad is sometimes it can make you bruised and hurt, and it can make you lose a little bit of sense of magic in the world and all that, those beautiful other feelings. And so I figured if there was going to be a story, the story had to be based in reality, in facts, and the truth, at least as I saw it. And so I figured I was going to talk about their stresses and tensions and unhappiness and all of that. That was very common for us. And both were very good people. My mother is still alive. My father passed away, as I'm not sure we got into it a lot in the book. But you know, it's one of those things. As human beings, both are good people. Every human being on earth is a good person. It's circumstances, it's water and oil don't mix. Some personalities just don't mix. And, you know, to some extent, I think Vasant and I, in many ways, at least superficially, we're 100% different from each other, as night and as day, as yin and yang. But there's some common denominator in the caring and love and just doing good for people, or there's some core of the soul that's very similar, because he's a very strong introvert. I'm a very strong extrovert. He is, you know, very creative. I'm more left brain. He's more right brain creative. So we're very, very different. But sometimes I think that people who are opposite or very different from each other can actually be very good for the growth of the human being and the soul. I've often talked about, you know, life is a spiritual journey, and we're all just, you know, we're not just human beings going through the spiritual experience, we're spiritual beings going through the human experience. And so having relationships that are difficult or stressful, or that make you stop and think and pause, and that make you look at the entire experience, rather than thinking, oh my God, oh Lord, why do I have to suffer like this? It rather, again, turning it on its head, focusing on the half full instead of the half empty, and saying, thank you for giving me somebody that is so different, but that I know was brought into my life for me to grow in many ways, to grow mentally, intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, in every which way, as to become a better human being. And everything in life is how you look at it. We always say, right? Your attitude determines your altitude in life. And so I'm convinced that, much as Vasant and I there's this beautiful love story. I love him to pieces. I think he's one of the nicest human beings on earth. Sometimes thinks he should have had a better deal in life. But, you know, who cares what the deal is? If he's happy and I'm happy, 1 + 1 becomes 3. Heck, that's the win-win combination for everyone on earth. And so, you know, this whole feeling of the stresses of my parents' marriage, and wanting, really desperately craving it as a child, that it was almost like there was a magic recipe, and I didn't know the secret sauce for that recipe, because my parents had a really bad marriage. My favorite aunt in the world, whom we call my mother's older sister, Dodama, she had not a great marriage either. My mother's younger brother didn't have a good marriage, and my mother's other sister. So I had not seen, growing up, anybody around me, which is really sad, with a good marriage. And so I thought, you know, I'm probably going to be miserable and not have a good marriage, but I'm going to try, and I'm going to do, and if nothing else, I'm going to learn, because even the worst marriage is there for me to grow mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and otherwise. And so I always tried to look at the glass half full. I always looked at it that way. And I'm grateful to my parents, because they were imperfect people, but they were perfect in how they loved me and loved all 3 of us as girls, and how they were so adamant that their 3 daughters growing up 50, 60 years ago in India were going to be strong, bold, confident, financially independent women that would never rely on a man, never ever rely on a man for financial or other support, because the minute we become reliant on someone else, then they hold the trump card. And my mother didn't want that for her daughters. And I'm very grateful, because not too many people, maybe if she was very happy in her marriage, none of us would have become as professionally successful. So who knows, right? You always look at the glass as half full, and I think there's a lot of truth to it.
Sheila, could I just add to that a little bit? So the very first time when Sheila and her sister Suman came in, they came over to my place because we knew we had very limited time to get all the stories in. They had a flight back, to the US, and I really wanted to, at least the human aspect, because the cases is something that we can still get to some degree over a phone or a conversation, but to really get to know her. And I did not expect this, but her mother walked into the house with both the girls. And, Sandy, she's such an interesting person. If I thought Sheila was a character, but her mother, forget about the cake, she takes the whole bakery. She's fantastic. So Sheila and Suman started to tell me about their parents' marriage, and it was very interesting because I got two perspectives at the same time. Their mother was sitting right there, and she was listening quietly. And it was almost as if when they were describing the difficulties in the marriage, it was almost as if they were talking about somebody aside of Mrs. Indumurthy. She was completely unoffended by the criticisms that came her way, or what they deemed to be her mistakes in the marriage, or if they saw any shortcomings in their father. She never defended. She was not defensive at all. And that made me think that maybe there's another perspective. And I should tell you, Sheila, and I think you know this already, that when I was writing the book, many, many times I kept thinking, let me write it with a perspective that will give Sheila also a different idea, maybe another aspect to what she perceived. Because as a child, it's really difficult to pick up on the the layers of your parents' marriage. So I have to say this, that I also got the impression, despite all the problems that the parents had with each other, I got the strong impression that if they had to do it all over again, they might still have gone with the same partner. Over the years, I never got the feeling that Indu did not love her husband. I mean, I know she had lots of problems with him, but there was this deep sort of abiding sense of love and protectiveness. And I also feel that he counted on her courage. And I've tried to bring that into the book when, Sheila gets sick and they rush her to the hospital because her temperature is soaring and they're afraid it'll go to the brain. And her mother has been instructed by the doctor that she needs to keep putting the cold pack on her forehead so that, till the meds start to kick in. Colonel Murthy turns around and he sees his wife and her hand shakes as she's putting the towel on her head. And yet she stops there and she steadies herself, and then she does it anyway, and no longer does her handshake. And he gets this really deep feeling that, okay, there is somebody here that he can count on. So I think that, we have our own personalities, and much as in the moment we crib about it, when we look back, we realize that for some crazy reason, life is always one step ahead of us and somehow knew better than we knew, and probably put us with the right person. As Sheila so correctly says, he may not have been the happiest person to have lived my life with, but this is the best person to get me to where I am today, which is more spiritual, more understanding, more self-reliant, stronger. So I hope I'm not, sort of prettying this up, Sheila. I know that you went through your own pain and grief at, your parents' marriage growing up. But there was also this other perspective that came in. And when I spoke to Indu, her mother, so much of that came out, especially, and the reason that I really chose to believe her is because she was very unemotional about it. She clearly and honestly told me the things that didn't work and the things that worked, and she was unapologetic. And I loved talking to her, and I loved spending time with her, and I also loved the dual perspectives, what the girls were saying and how they were viewing it, as opposed to what she was seeing and how she was living it. So, that's what made for a very interesting tension in my mind as the author when I was writing about Sheila's child.
That's fascinating. It's fascinating. I see what you're saying about the book writing itself. I think that's oversimplification, but I can see how your eye picks up on these dynamics so beautifully, so beautifully. It's interesting, Sheela. Do you have feedback from Vasant and your mother and how they and your sisters, how they were portrayed? Do people universally agree that the book is authentic to you?
I think everybody feels that it's pretty authentic. My younger sister, of course, loves it because it brings her back memories and helps her get back. And a lot of her friends, in fact, just today, one of her friends just ordered 10 books from Amazon from India just to give out to all her family and friends because she loved it so much when she was reading it. So I have people from, her friends and her friends and their friends who are just like absolutely love. And they say, wow, we just see, Dr. Suma Nabar as this brilliant eye surgeon in Mumbai for all the Bollywood stars, but we don't see her from the day she was born, how she was, looked and viewed by her big sister. And the truth is, as we've continued to grow older, the bonds, there were times when, again, like with the mother, there were times when the bonds were weaker, and then the bonds become stronger. I think the different experiences and relationships, marriages, and all of that going on. But I thought that each of the characters was portrayed very, very nicely and very accurately. Even my big sister was like in La La Land, and we joke and call her Space Cadet. And she said that she skimmed through the book and she thought it was okay. And her daughter, who read it, said, God, I loved the book. I had no idea about yours and Vasant Uncle's love story. So it was interesting to read. Her name also is Aditi, but spelled slightly differently. She's my older sister's daughter, and she's now joined law because of my influence. And she was like, I'd really learned so many cool things about your life that I would never have known. And most people who read it love it because you learn about Indian culture and Indian system and Indian food and Indian traditions, because so many of the clients, of course, are from all over the world. So you have the immigrant perspective, and then you have a little bit of Americana and American culture weaving in with the Indian culture. I think Aditi did a great job. I mean, really, Aditi, this is.
But Sheela, most people, maybe when they read the book, they like it. But most people read the book in the first place. They pick up a copy because they love you. There must be something about you that has really grabbed their hearts for them to even choose to pick up a copy of this book. And I don't want you to forget that.
Well, it's a beautiful picture.
Isn't it lovely?
And everybody who reads this says, do not read it if you're sleepy. You will stay up all night. You will not be able to put it down. It's so beautifully written. So Geeta wants to point to a story, and this is again about food, but she mentions that you invited Vasant over for lunch, and she was thinking South Indian home, maybe you would offer a traditional meal, but it was parathas. Explain that for me, please, since I don't know the reference.
Okay, so we grew up in North India, unlike, majority of people in South India who grew up, eating South Indian food. So we grew up most of our life. My father was in the Indian Army. And so we traveled all over the country growing up as kids, including majority of the time was in North India. So we ate a lot of rajma curry, chole curry, parathas, chapatis, all of the foods associated primarily with North India. Whereas South India, it's more rice-based, coconut milk-based, dosa, idlis, those kind of dishes. And we didn't really grow up with that. We grew up with parathas. So my mother made this delicious mixed vegetable sort of aloo paratha, which is potatoes with spices and herbs. And then she made another one with lots of vegetables in it. And she was very good at it, and I've learned, and I do a good job, but she's really like super fast and fantastic, and she can make these North Indian dishes beautifully. And so I was just a friendly person, so I would just meet almost anybody anywhere and be like, come home, my mother will make you yummy food, come on over. That's how I grew up. Now, Vasant's family is the exact. So he thought it was very special that I was inviting him. Little did he know, I invited everybody I met to come over. So I think he read more into it, and I was like in La La Land, because I was like, here's another lovely, very, very sweet, wonderful human being I really liked, but he was going back, I think, in a couple of days. So I was like, come over and have just parathas. It was a very simple meal. It wasn't meant to be anything special or spectacular. So Manoj, I love parathas. So I figured if I love food, and I love everything, so it's difficult to, I'm not very discriminating when it comes to almost any food. So I just thought, he would love it too. And he does love it. But now after 35 years of being with him, I think he loves it, but he likes puris more and dosas more. So what can I tell you? He did enjoy the parathas. He did take a lot of photographs that day with his Hasselblad camera from 35 plus years ago. And what do they say? The rest is history. I think what's beautiful about the book, in addition to the childhood stories and the case stories, is the love story, the whole love story angle and the different cultures coming together. I think who doesn't? Everybody, they say all the world loves a lover, right? So who doesn't love a love story? And so it's got a little bit of drama and theater and, love story. And there's, I don't know who the villain is. The government, if they try to take away the green card, is the villain. And we are like the riding on the white horse, trying to grab away our clients and take them to safety, to a safe, nurturing place to get them their approvals and their green cards and their citizenship approvals.
It's so true. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. I can't say enough how beautifully written it is, Aditi.
Thank you, Sandy.
We have a follow-up question from Radhika Nijawan. She also comments on that lunch with Vasant the next day, and she says that, Sheela, you're so spontaneous. What was going through your mind when you asked him over for lunch? And you sort of answered it, but wasn't he a little bit special?
Okay, so I did think he was one of the nicest human beings I had ever met in my life. I did think, wow, this is such a, he's very soulful. He's very sweet and kind and gentle. He's very smart. I think one of his friends described him, a gentleman who was an American, Paul Cole, who's married to a Japanese woman, who said Vasant is like a samurai knife with a thick silk sheath case surrounding it. If you hold it too hard, it will cut you. But outside, all you see, though 99.9% of the world only sees the thick silk, the thick, soft, gorgeous silk, the covering, the case, so to speak. And so I just thought, what a beautiful human being. But you can't mess with him. I mean, he's very strong. He's very tough. So a lot of people look at his kindness and niceness as weakness, especially I found in India more than in the United States, where people would think, oh, if a man is so gentle and kind and loving and creative and sensitive, well, he couldn't be too much of a man, a macho man. And so they would kind of almost sometimes downplay him or think, if he's focusing on his wife's career, if he's willing to sacrifice his life and his career for the sake of his wife, then he couldn't really be a true man in terms of bringing home the bread. And that is the exact opposite. It's far from the truth, because Vasant is so caring and amazing, and he was just being sensible and practical, and he knew how passionate and driven, and I was just very ambitious and driven. And so he figured, you know what, if both of us work 14-hour days, with her work, she's going to make more money than I'm going to make money as a professor, a teacher, or an artist, at least back then, 25, 30 years ago. And so he was willing, he was perfectly comfortable with saying, you know what, I'll sacrifice and I'll do what I need to do, give up my career to support yours. And so when I invited him for the parathas, I think he thought it was very special. And it was, because I liked him a lot as a human being, but I don't know that it was anything more that I was trying to, warm up to him. I'm very spontaneous with everybody all the time. I will say mostly nice things to people. Occasionally, if I find somebody quite annoying, I will tell them, God, that's an annoying statement. God, I don't know. Do you have a lot of people that don't get along with you? So I will say that. And people say that to me sometimes. I will actually say, I will actually stop and think seriously. what am I doing to drive this person crazy? You know, am I doing something? And sometimes it's helpful to examine oneself. It's always helpful to examine oneself, but sometimes it's helpful to change. And sometimes it's like water and oil. They don't have to mix. Not everybody's going to be everybody's best friend in the world and adore and love everybody. So to answer your question, there wasn't a whole lot behind it. Yes, I'm very spontaneous by nature. I'm that way with hiring people, with keeping people, with inviting friends, with making friends. But he's very different. He's very selective, very choosy, doesn't like to meet too many people, is very particular about where he's going to invest his time. So it's a fantastic, the two opposites that attract. Here, as I said earlier, two completely polar opposites superficially, but with core values of care and compassion and love and helping the world. I think there's a lot of common factors we both share, which really binds us together and has been a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for me to grow in many, many ways. And he's one of my biggest fans, but also one of my biggest critiques. People don't realize it. He criticizes me when I do mistake, when I do something wrong, and I appreciate it, because only people who care about you are going to point out when something isn't right. And he knows how to say it in a nice manner without being very offensive. I sometimes will say the same thing, but I don't have the class and the polish. I'm very direct. He's much more thoughtful and sensitive and caring when he talks to people.
You see that in that little incident also, Sandy, where she invites Vasant over, like she says. So she told me that, like she says, she just invited him over because she thought he was a nice person. But I do know that Vasant came because he actually found her special and was already attracted to her and was already interested in her. And you see, while she was talking and serving him the parathas and just, being friendly and nice and introducing him to her mom, he was looking around and trying to get to know her hopes and her dreams and her future. He was looking, her interests. He noticed that she had won the moot court. There was this thing there, and he realized that, okay, so then she can apply to Harvard. And already in his mind, he was planning a future for them, laying the foundations for it. And if you remember, he came home after that. So it was the second meeting, right, Sheela? He came home, he went back to Chennai after that and actually just told his family about this woman that he had met. And his father, being the kind of person he was, Dr. Shankar Nayak, listened quietly and then left town. He just left town, came straight to Bangalore, met her, put some money into her hand, which is like a token of, it's just a sort of a token of acceptance that, welcome to my family, you are now, I accept you as my, a daughter or a daughter-in-law. He just did it and caught the next train out. So I think at that moment of inviting him for parathas meant a great deal more. It was more significant, right, to Vasant than it was to Sheela, but she caught up. She caught up really fast. And then she had in the mail, she had letters from him. And then there was this envelope that showed up with, because she had said that she can't afford to apply. And he said, but you must, and you must apply only to the best. And if you're going to do it and you can't, pay the application fee if it's too expensive, this is already paid for. And here's the application form, So there was a lot more going on there from his side than there was hers, I think.
He has a very discerning eye. He knows, absolutely he knows which horse to back. Another line from the book that you attribute to Vasant when he says, Sheela is always saying something meaningful in the most delightful way. Whenever she opens her mouth, it's something interesting in the most delightful way. So why wouldn't you want to be with someone like that for your life? I mean, never boring, always fun. Let's see if we can get one more question in from Snigdha Somani. She said, if you had to do it again, Aditi, what is something you would do differently when it comes to writing the book?
I would have tortured Sheela into telling me her failure stories, because I have received a lot of criticism about the fact that there were not enough of the challenges. And I know that there have been challenges in Sheela's life, but given her, her attitude to things and not always recognizing failure, but just kind of storming her way through things and making the best of a situation. As her biographer, I think it was my job to have listened to the things that she was not telling me and added that into the book, because I think it would have given her reader a very different and a much more well-rounded perspective of Sheela. And that is something I really regret. It really was very difficult because we had so little time together in India. And when she was in the US, sitting on calls, and it's not always easy. Yeah, you can get stories about, the cases, and you can go into the loopholes of the law and the nuances of the law, and you can get into that part. But to really understand another person, it takes time and solid amount of, you invest the hours that you sit with that person and observe them, and not only listen to what they're telling you, but also to the things that they're not telling you. So if I had to do it all over again, that is the thing I would do. Is possibly I would have gone and pursued her family. And I mean, I can be a real nuisance and unapologetically so. I think she would be falling asleep at night, and I would be like, hey, wake up. She would be getting a massage or at the beauty parlor, and I'd be sitting on the other side of the screen, and I'd be like, no. So come back to what I'm saying. So, so tell me more about the case, and that's the way I actually literally pursued her and tailed her all over Bangalore trying to get her stories. I should have done this too.
Well, don't listen to the naysayers. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. I love every moment in it. It's beautifully done.
Thank you so much, Sandy.
I don't agree with the critics. Beautiful. So www.beingsheela.com, and you will not be disappointed. Beautifully written, Aditi, and Sheela, you're the best. I see Gita is, I think, motioning to us.
I was going to say that based on the last question, there might be a Being Sheela 2 on the way.
Yeah, I'm going to title that "Understanding Sheela." I've already thought about that. And oh God, I mean, Sheela is in big trouble because if I made a nuisance of myself the previous time, that was the tip of the iceberg. Okay, you won't see the back of me for like a few months. I'll be there in your space, so be prepared for that.
So
we were ready to bring you over, but the COVID happened and we couldn't travel, and there was a lot of stuff going on in her life.
Yeah, there was just too much.
She wanted to come and follow me in the United States, and I thought it would be wonderful to have her come over and visit and just see me interacting with my team here.
That would have made a big difference. But Sandy, thank you so much for your warm praise and for liking it and for
being the
taking
moderator.
the time.
Thank you, Geeta and Manoj, for doing this.
The pleasure is all ours, and I really, really thank all of you, Sandy, Aditi, and of course, Sheela. You breathe the life in everybody that you touch.
Yes.
That's the best way I can put it.
And you know why we can bring the life? Because people like Manoj and Geeta have these wonderful festivals.
Absolutely.
They put their heart and soul into doing the DC South Asian Film Festival, the DC Now first ever literary festival. Manoj and Geeta are just like the powerhouse couple in the Washington, DC area that are there to bring out artists, movie makers, authors. They're just kind and generous, just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people. We're so fortunate to have you in our midst, Geeta and Anand. Geeta, Anand, and Manoj.
Seriously, I mean, it's because of supporters like you, and you have always been like a rock behind us. Really, I'm truly blessed. We are really, truly blessed to have you there with us. So, and thank you, Sandy and Aditi, Sandy for being part of this, and Aditi for writing such a wonderful book and waking up early in the morning, and
Thank you, Geeta. It was a real pleasure to be here, and it was so fun to meet you all. And Sandy, it was so wonderful to meet you in person also. Sheela, to see you again after so long, to see you all well. Please do stay well in these difficult times. Take care.
And you all also in India.
Absolutely.
Stay safe, stay well.
And we have a donation thing on our website, and all the 100% of the proceeds are going to go towards COVID relief in South Asia. So anybody who donates, I just wanted our audience to know, and I want to really thank my team. Our team has done a wonderful job for months in putting this together. Really thank them. And definitely thank
Yeah,
our audience. The
very kind.
audience is also, we've had really wonderful audience, wonderful engagement. So thank you to all the audience. And when we'll be back again when we have what understanding, Sheela.
Perfect. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very
Thank
much.
you.